All the way from Atlanta, Georgia, Vice President of Invoke, Johnny Ramondino, who's going to give a real-life case study on the ROI of an AI project. So give us 1 second.
Hello, everybody. All right, I think we got everybody moving out who needed to take a break. I feel this is like AI speed dating, right? It's like go, 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 go. But this is honestly fantastic already. I hope that I'm going to be able to keep up the level of what I'm hearing here. Really, really cool. So I think I thought really hard about what I was going to talk about today, and I think I get a lot of questions from people like, all right, how much is this going to cost me? Is this real? Is this going to work? So I thought, let me just open the kimono and just show you exactly what happens and what you can do. And happy to talk later about bigger and smaller use cases, but let me show you what this actually costs, right? So I think that was kind of what I was going to do today. Just by giving you a little bit of an idea of why can I talk about this. So we're a company, Invoke. We essentially go to businesses and communities like counties or states or whatever it is, and we'll go and figure out what is the right tools to use, what are the problems that we're really trying to solve for, and how do you implement them securely, how do you think about regulation. Jordan, that was awesome. It was really cool to see some of that. And so that's what we do, right? And so we see a lot of different businesses, a lot of different industries, and usually we try to marry up what do you already have, what people do you have that can help with this, and how do we get this done? So I thought I'd just give you a real use case, all right? So I got 15 minutes, I'm gonna go through this. By the way, I talk fast, so I should be in good shape, right? All right, so what is the use case here? So very, very simple. Our client was a law firm, and I think, having Jordan up here earlier was kind of put a smile on my face. They had customers that essentially were building really big high-rises. So you can imagine these big towers that they're building, and every time that they're building a high-rise, they use hundreds of subcontractors. Now, I didn't notice, I didn't know this about the way that this works in construction law, but apparently, at least in the area where they're in, if anybody falls off a ladder, regardless of what the subcontractor does, the main contractor is liable. So this law firm is basically trying to protect the main contractor from all of the potential things that the subcontractors could get into, right? So you've got maybe hundreds of subcontractors working on a big building over whatever the number of years that building is being constructed. And so all these subcontractors have contracts that say, hey, I'll be liable for this and I support that and so on. And that's a roll up into all of the conditions that the main contractor is going to be allowing to take place. So that's kind of the challenge that the law firm has. So essentially these lawyers that are really smart are reviewing hundreds and hundreds of contracts for every project, for every customer that's building any type of project of these large buildings. And they're basically painstakingly going through these contracts for every clause and liability and option and carve out and whatever it may be. And to figure out, can I even allow the contractor to be on the project? That's even before we agree on money. It's like, are we liable about it? Like, what's going to happen? So that's what was going on. So that was very fascinating because they came to us, that's basically what they do day in, day out. It's a lot of work. It's incredible to kind of see what they're doing about this. So we came in and said, how can we help leverage AI to do this better, smarter, faster, cheaper, right? So here's what we did. This is the most complex workflow that we're going to see. Essentially, we took all of these contractors that are out there. By the way, we took existing contracts that are working on, but we also took historical contracts. And then we use basically AI to be kind of the analysis and the reviewer, if you will, of all of these clauses. And we connected it to the existing requirements of their customers. So if the customer says, this is what I require in these type of items, then AI is basically being the quarterback and saying, hey, this contractor doesn't comply with that. Let me go back and forth and make sure that I've got all these things listed out. And then we provided a user experience for our law firm to say, hey, this is all great, but let me review this. Let me not just trust AI, as well as how do I know what components might be excluded or included in a particular contract, and is this something that we feel could be negotiated, or is this something, hey, if you don't accept this, you're out, right? We're not even going to look at that. So that's kind of the solution that we came up with. All right, so what does something like this actually cost? How long does it take? That's really what I want to talk to you about. So what we did is we took about 8 weeks to deliver this, and the first week and a half was really setting up technology and infrastructure, and then we also made sure we understood the requirements. Again, we're not lawyers, so we wanted to get it right, so it took us a while we were setting up all the technology. We really did very in-depth discovery work and asked a lot of stupid questions and a lot of repeats with the lawyers to make sure we got it right. And then we ended up in an 8-week period with a result that ended up saving them about 72% of time in any of these contracts, which is pretty meaningful for them. So what did that eventually cost? So we, in this particular case, used a platform called UiPath. They're here as well. It's a general purpose type of platform for enterprise automation and AI. So it can use a lot of, it's like a Swiss Army knife for your automation capabilities. And as you heard earlier, there's many tools and solutions out there. This happens to be one that has a lot of components to it to make it easy, because a lot of the security concerns, a lot of the auditability and flexibility of changing it takes a lot of guesswork away and allows you to do that pretty quickly. So we used that platform, we sized it right for the volume of contracts, with tens of thousands of contracts that they were reviewing on an annual basis. So we made sure that we loaded up enough capacity for that to be processed. And we got that kind of going. Now we have a subscription model of the technology. That includes with a small additional item on the infrastructure cost. Most of this is actually hosted in a private cloud environment. Again, security and all that stuff was important. And there's a few things that are happening in the private cloud of the law firm as well. So there was a few machines that we wanted to have. They had some interesting, very old software that needed to be executed on, and they wanted to make sure that that worked correctly. So we set up some additional infrastructure for that. And then we did an implementation. Essentially took our engineers and made sure that the solution was doing what they wanted us to do. And in that 8-week period, it cost them about $45,000. And then because they wanted to make sure that as they grew and made changes and decisions, we said, we're also going to have a support contract available. You don't have to hire somebody on staff to do that. We'll use our shared service team, and we'll monitor that everything keeps on working. If something fails or locks in, then we'll go and take a look and fix it for you as well. So this was kind of the investment in year one, was about $147,600. And in year two, because we don't have to implement again, it was about just over $100,000. So it gives you a sense of like, okay, that's kind of the investment, right? And typically when we do any of these things, because this is not atypical, usually anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 is kind of an initial implementation. When there's bigger things, it's a little bit more like this. So this is not very atypical, meaning you don't have to do this at like $500,000 or $5 million initial investment, right? You can do something meaningful that has a good return that doesn't cost you too much money. It's not nothing. It's not $20 a month, GPT Enterprise or whatever you want to do, but it does give you an enterprise view of like how can you really get value off of an AI implementation. Now, what did they get back, right? So you notice the actual return actually projected a return in two ways. The first one was in the investment and really thinking about the labor savings, meaning now we can take more things on with the same amount of lawyers. How much time are we saving, and what can we do what can we do with that? And so just in labor savings alone, their return was pretty meaningful, like 2.7x in 3 years, right? So there's a pretty good return that we're seeing. It's not always the same return, but what we try to go for in any of these engagements is ideally a break-even year one. If we can do a break-even year one, then it's easy because you've already now implemented an enterprise-grade platform, you have some capacity, and now you can do more things as you go on your journey. And then for them, probably even more important was the people that they freed up could work on more projects. So they were pretty strapped when it came to the amount of projects they could do for their customers. And they had a hard time figuring out, hey, do we hire more lawyers? And how do we find the ones with that expertise that want to dedicate that time versus now being able to grow the actual footprint of the existing team that is there and take on more revenue for the business, which means for the individual lawyers, more take-home pay. So that was really valuable, I thought. So that was really the kind of the rundown on what happened with them. And this is not a Fortune 100 law firm. Like, this entire company is less than 100 people. Less than 100 people, which sometimes is like kind of a department of a larger business. So your internal legal team or your internal finance team or HR team or IT team can definitely leverage these type of tools without it really breaking the bank, right? So this is the type of conversation that we're having every time. And I really wanted to show you this from a point of view like these are real numbers, this is the real scenario, and we try to make sure that it's clear in terms of like, what is really happening in this space. Not every use case gives these results. Not every use case, is a good use case for actually implementing with it. And the majority of use cases actually don't need AI. It is really interesting to see. We speak with a lot of companies, and they'll say, "Hey, I need some AI because I have some business problems." When they explain the business problems, there's a lot of other ways to solve the problem. AI doesn't necessarily need to be used, but that's okay. We have the conversation. There's the awareness from people that may not be as technology savvy to understand that technology can help solve the business problem. If we frame that as AI as a starting point, that's okay. We can then take them on a journey to say, oh, you actually need this or that, and then we solve that problem for them. So I just wanted to educate you on this, and I know that people want to take a break and so on, so you can always get in contact with us. We're here, we have a booth out there to talk more about this. This gets you connected with us. Hopefully this gave you some real numbers, real examples, and hopefully some thoughts on how you can implement this internally. That's it.